Okay, it's 5:15. I call the special meeting of the Village Harrison Board for strategic visioning and ordinance, size and to the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we're going to do roll call. When I call your name, just say aye. Matt Lancaster. Aye. Trustee Brightmeyer is excused. Trustee Van Havdy is excused. He will be joining us at 5:30 aboard their votes. Village President, aye. Trustee Field. Aye. Trustee Baldwin.
Aye.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Next up, we have new business for discussion, consideration, or action, which is the 2026 budget vision session. I'm going to turn it over to our village manager to lead this discussion.
I would like to start out with Alyssa, the finance director, kind of running through the sheet that looks like this in your packet. It was handed out today. It's going to kind of through where we stand today. And then some things to think about for the future. And then after that, we're going to spend a little bit of time going through a draft of the 5-year growth plan, which I know is near and dear to a number of you, as well as the PACER ratings that I handed out. I'm not looking for any action on that today, just to kind of start the discusn. So turn over to Alyssa.
All right, so the color document you have in front of you, I just kind of wanted to go through a couple of things. So a couple first discussion items or overview would be reviewing the budget calendar again, reviewing our current budget progress we've done so far, and then discussing mission, vision, and values. So just reviewing the dates and calendars. In July and August, we initiated the 5-year capital plan with the departments. We distributed templates for the departments to start budgeting. And then we're obviously doing the kickoff with the board and the visioning session. In September, Chad and I will be holding meetings with each of the departments to go through what they've submitted for their budget numbers. Then we'll also be distributing the proposed budget to the board towards the end of September, and we will be holding our first budget workshop. Then in October, the second budget workshop is planned. If necessary, we'll be posting the notice of public hearing and then also having the public hearing for the budget. And then in November, it will be adopted. And this is very similar, obviously, at the last board meeting. You have a little more details of the dates on that, but I just wanted to quick kind of outline that. So obviously where we're at right now, budgets, everybody's budget templates are due to finance by this Friday. And that way we can, or I can start compiling to see kind of where we're at, you know, what gaps we have, and then also to help facilitate mine and Chad's conversations between September 8th and 10th, when we will be meeting with each of the departments to kind of discuss their needs and wants and kind of talk through things and you know, get a little more information prior to obviously distributing the proposed budget to you guys as the board. So kind of to go through what we know so far of items to be, you know, for the 2026 budget is that our Wisconsin retirement rates are increasing for the employer side from 6.95% to 7.2% for our general employees. And then there is a decrease of 0.25% on the protected, but majority of our employees are obviously in the general, so we will see an increase there. Obviously there'll be some expected salary adjustments pending our salary study that we're doing with PAA right now. Actually the three of us are meeting with PAA tomorrow to get a little more information on where they're kind of seeing, but I assume eventually PAA will be doing a presentation to the board on their findings and how the board wants to proceed from there.
When will that be?
Maybe at the September meeting.
You know, we can find out more tomorrow when we meet with them on how far they are in the process. So there'll be obviously some changes along with that, but we're unsure about that and what that'll entail. We're also waiting to hear from our health insurance on what the rates will be moving into 2026, but we do have an email out to them to try to get a projection on what we can expect for rates for obviously the employer side of things for employees. Our net new construction came out and that is 3.45%. Based on growth. Obviously this past year, we just completed board review, but accurate assessors completed a market update. We are currently projecting a $5,000 increase in insurance premiums through CIVNIC. Most everybody is seeing increases based on the cost of, just everything going up in general, and of course, increases in payroll costs, reflect our, workers' comp numbers as well. You'll be seeing tonight in the packet, we're bringing Gov AI forward for a contract, but the potential for new softwares we're anticipating would be that one, Adobe Pro for more employees to have. And there's going to be a new ERP system for basically a whole accounting system that will be budgeted in capital. For the upcoming year, we will, instead of have 2 elections that we had in 2025, there'll be 4 in 2026, so there'll be increased costs for that. We're still be getting ongoing revenue under Act 12. It's also going to be proposed for an IT manager position that would replace Chad's old position, which would be the assistant village manager, and potential revenue received from Sherwood, since that is a potential shared position with Sherwood. So more will have to come from that or during the budget process, but a topic of discussion. In the works of kind of talking through with some of the departments, there is a potential, discussion on a new public works mechanic / laborer. So we'll have to discuss what the board's thoughts are moving forward, on that type of position. And we can talk a little more on what the thought is on pay and everything like that. There's a fire services study underway with McMahon, and that will bring a potential new cost sharing contract for 2027 with Sherwood and Woodville. Obviously, there's still the works with that, so it'd be very difficult to potentially implement that for 26, ensuring that Sherwood and Woodville would have enough time for their budget as well. So that probably won't go into effect till 2027, but something to keep in mind. And we will no longer be setting aside funds for an escrow like in years past for the fire truck and the self-contained breathing apparatus. A fire truck is a good option for debt. So instead of every year putting 150 or 250,000 aside for that, levy dollars, we can utilize those levy dollars in a better way. And once we need a new truck, based on useful life, that would be a prime item to take out debt for. So just kind of moving funds around in that regard. So those are just kind of some things we know. Some of our goals would be to continue to improve our 5-year capital improvement plan. I know that's made strides since, even from last year, from prior years. So we're going to continue to keep, doing a good job on that. Reviewing all expenses and their funding sources to make sure that if we can use any of our special funds like impact fees, we're using those when applicable. And then we'll just continue to improve our budgeting process. And my hope would be that for the 2027 budget, we submit it to the GFOA for hopefully a budget award. And then also for 2026, we're going to continue to try to increase online services with our new credit card provider and potential ERP system to, help alleviate, some of the traffic and let people be able to do more things online if they can't make it during business hours. So, that's kind of a quick, I guess snapshot on some of the things we know. One other thing I wanted to discuss was, I know last year during this visioning session, Russ had brought Allison Burnett in from a consulting firm. And I think a bunch of studies were done on potentially trying to form a mission, vision, and values. And that kind of went nowhere after she was here. So that's something that I thought we should potentially talk about, that in 2026, we try to form a vision, mission, and values, just so that way, people know, where the village stands, trying to, put us a little more on the map, and then also help guide staff and employees on the direction, that our community is going for. I think it would be something, to again, pair us in the right direction. So,
When would that be?
we'd have to discuss when the timeline was. I know Allison and Chad provided this. There was this whole, and I'm afraid you probably don't have this, which we can get you a copy, but I know there was all sorts of studies done with employees, and it's a framework. It's just after this, it went nowhere to actually form a vision and a mission. So that would be something that would the board want to form a small committee to do that, and then from there we vote on the one that everybody likes. I guess I don't have direction at this point on where to move forward from that, but that should be a goal of ours in 26 to cement something that we have a vision, mission,
And I would agree, because without a mission and supporting goals, how do we measure
right.
staff on achieving those set goals, right?
And especially if we're going to go to a performance-based
Exactly.
system, we're going to have a mission and vision and statement in place.
Right. And I think
And
it's
how do we gauge how well we're doing if we don't have goals, right? And our mission statement, what's our logo, place to grow, right?
Your opportunity lists.
Where opportunity lives, right? So we need, if that's our mission statement, then so be it, then we need to set forth the rules to support that, if that's our.
Right, I would say that's more of a tagline where opportunity lives versus a vision or a mission, but it should be something we strive for, so the community knows, I guess, what our thoughts are moving forward as well, so. Just something to talk about, since, you know, obviously that study was done and work was put in by staff and the consultants, it's just. We've gotta move forward now to come up with something or, you know, agree upon, vote, whatever it is, but kind of keep moving forward to get those cemented, so. So I guess from there, I don't know if any, obviously, you know, the goal of this was to see if the board has any thoughts in mind, so that way that can help form the budget versus, you know, if anybody has any thoughts for the budget or wants to see things or has ideas, it'd be nice to know now versus, you know, you can obviously let us know later too, but if it would help us form the budget versus giving it to you in September, you know what I mean? Like, you can obviously make comments then too, but if you have any thoughts that we can incorporate at this point, that'd be nice to know, so.
So what I'll do is, I see. Chelsea Lancaster wishes to speak, so I don't know how the board feels, but I just think. I'm gonna leave it open for discussion, so if you have a thought or. A need or something that you wanna. Focus on, or idea, yes, turn, request to speak and then, I'll let you. Trustee Lancaster.
Thank you. So, got a couple of things here then actually, guess some feedback on this and a couple of budget comments. Try to keep it all together. First of all, very, very nice job in putting this together. I think this is the first time we've really seen a timeline like this, so very professional, very well done. I have a question around no longer setting funds aside for a fire truck, SCBA, et cetera. Long term, I definitely would be in agreement with that and very supportive of that. I understand how that all makes sense. I do have a concern for doing that in 2026, however. I believe in 2026, we need to keep things status quo. And my reason, unless there's some other things that the fire department is asking for that I'm not aware of that offsets these dollar amounts, I guess. So I'll tell you, maybe there's some things that the fire chief as a department is bringing forward, asking for that are these same dollar amounts of the 200,000 that we set aside for a truck and then the other smaller escrows. I would not want the fire department budget to decrease. Because one, we operate a pretty shoestring budget, going to be honest, and with having very good volunteers that do a lot of work for the fire department. And because we are not, we have this fire services study underway, especially the shared cost with Sherwood. That in 2026, we're keeping that same sharing model we got with Sherwood, which makes sense because you're right, by the time the study comes back, they're having their same kind of discussions. We can't spring things on them, that would be being a partner, right? So I agree that any changes are until 2027 there. But if we take a couple $100,000 out of the fire department budget, that's 20-some% less of that than Sherwood's paying. And in my view, Sherwood's already getting a very extreme value for the services that we are providing. So I would just encourage you to look at that to make sure whatever adjustments we are doing, that we're not decreasing the payments that Sherwood is making to Harrison. And they do pay anything that's escrow, they do pay a percentage of that. They pay 20 for any of those escrows.
Yeah, but I think we could go for that.
They do, it's in the budget, they pay for the escrows, I know they do, yes, they
I
have.
have to look at shares.
100%, because that's been a talking point in past budgets, they 100% pay for those escrows. What they do not pay for, and what they haven't paid for that we said was, well, even depending on the capital. So we did not ask them to contribute anything for the new fire station 70. In anticipation that there'll be discussions of them contributing for the remodel at 60, kind of a thing. The other thing that we've always said that Sherwood doesn't have to contribute for that you'll see is if the fire chief secures grant money, for Harrison. So like he recently received the $60-some thousand emergency EM first responder grant for emergency medical services side that he used to purchase those radios, for example. We didn't ask Sherwood to pay a percentage of that because that was grant money that we received. It wasn't our property tax money that our taxpayers are paying, but anything that we have put in the budget that is hitting our levy because it's our tax money, they pay a percentage of that.
So I think you bring up a valid point that we can look at. I think what we need to also take into consideration is we're going into a fire station that's 3 times the size of the one we're in. So heating costs and it should be more efficient, but it's a lot larger building, and we're gonna have to have a cleaning service or some sort of thing for all the space that's in there. So let us check out the costs and see what it looks like, and we can report back to the board where we go with that.
Yeah, well, that's fair. I just didn't want to see that decrease. So like, if there's other things where that money's going to the fire department, they're still paying their share of that. That's no issue.
Okay.
So, thank you. And then just feedback on a couple of budget items. That I've heard some things from the public on this. I believe we need to put a swing set at the Shield Park next year. I would also like to see us, and this is probably would require a little broader discussion from the board because it's not just my idea here, so I want to make sure my peers here have some input on this, but there was a lot of talk and excitement in the past about trying to a year-round facility at Darwin Community Park, and the costs got out of control on that, and so that got set aside. We do still have the land space next to the pickleball courts, basically between the trail and the parking lot to the south of the pickleball courts there. So I don't know if that space is the same size of what we're doing at Farmers Field, or it may be a little smaller actually. So you'd have to look at that. But I do believe we should look at a year-round facility, small, can be smaller, but something there in that space that we would, if the school district's willing. So that's where this is where I'm saying too, of some discussions that need to take place. But when you're talking budget and penciling money aside, and it's really park impact fees, so it's really not going to impact the tax levy. But I think we should set something aside next fall that if the project with the school district is successful at Farmers Field, then we would ask them to, especially if it fit, who knows if you have to adjust the plans or not, but basically the similar kind of thing where ask the school district to repeat and do that again with their next class the following year.
What are you gonna do with that building?
So basically would be a year-round facility that the community can rent. Because people have been, that's why people have been asking for that, and that's why we had actually drawn up plans and everything, and then it was gonna be a full commercial steel building from Keller or somewhere similar, and it was gonna be just, it got out of control, so.
Again, I would ask that that would possibly brought up as a full board discussion at this time.
We have enough green space right now. We gotta be careful putting additional stuff out there right now. Because look at the balloon thing.
Yeah,
Well, we're gonna lose more of that, so I'm not in favor of that. I don't think I think there's that, I'm not. In my area, talk about the need for that. I'm just saying that it's gonna take up more week right now. I like to keep as much green space as we got left there, because you see that we have 7,000-8,000 people there for the balloon thing. And it was with so I don't see a need, because we're running out of space there. That I think we need, with all the sports being done there in the fields, I think we need to keep that green space and not continue to build. That's my take on it.
So what I would say is, I guess, I would like to see what the capital projects would be for the year, like especially breakdown with the parks.
That will be coming from.
Okay.
Yep.
Cause I know, and I hear you, yeah, and I'm not suggesting that's not a need, but I think that would be something where we could all hash out our own opinions and priorities on how that goes together. Because I do feel also that concerning the parks, I think since for board meeting call, we're dealing with soccer teams, right? Well, they got some fields, we don't have anywhere for show softball or baseball. I'd like us to at least have one little league, uh, official little league, ball field so that, you know, how I personally feel is a lot of Harrison feeds into 60% of all the kids that play sports at Kimberly from Harrison. And obviously, those parents have to take their kids to practices and all that stuff. And as a father of four, I know I always had to go into Kimberly Combined Locks to go play kids sports instead of let's have some sort of facilities here for at least baseball and girls softball, so parents don't have to go on KK, you know, another 2 to 4 times a day to run their kids to practice. So I think having some amenities to offload the need for people to have to travel outside the community is going to be important. So just something to keep in mind, as far as that's concerned.
I would say related to the year-round, I think the year-round facility, it obviously as the community keeps growing, it's gonna be a need, but maybe there's another location for it. The other thing I would say is, let's get the farmers fields done first and see what the rent out rate is for that. Because the hope is to maybe take people out of here, and put them into farmers field so that this boardroom can become something else in the future, but at the same token, you know, we don't know what, we don't know, I guess we don't know what is the usage gonna be, and I would hate to have 2 park shelters the same size. I mean, that one at Farmers Field is 6,000 square feet, that's a huge park shelter, but we took advantage of it because we're not paying labor. So I guess I would like to see what the public reaction is and the rent out rates year round are. And if there is a need, then we look for a location to do it and put it in a future year and build one somewhere else where we have more parking availability. I realize Delaware Park is the place to be, but I would agree. I think there's a lot going on there today.
Yeah, the other thing is the other thing that's fair. I just want to bring it forward because I have heard people ask, and I know we have explored it in the past with the board. The other additional piece that I just have is our parks in general. I do think we need to have a better parks usage plan of using the land, I'm saying, for the community. We mow an awful lot of grass. And there's an awful lot of grass that gets mowed just to be mowed. And an example that I will use is over by Clover Ridge Park and the parcels that the village has along the high lines there, all the way, pretty much all the way from, oh, I can't think of the city, where the parking lot is for Handle Park, yeah, all the way from Handle, all the way to State Park. I know we in the past, there was an attempt at a frisbee golf, disc golf course, but I think only 2 or 3 baskets got put there.
I think there's more,
Or
9 baskets.
maybe more got in and out, okay.
Or full course, but we had, in the capital plan, we had planned for basketball courts there. We also put in further down, maybe a skate park or scooter kind of park, so there, we've looked at what we can do with the space that we have available to utilize that, so we don't have to have so much grass.
Okay, no, that's awesome. That's why I just gonna bring up, I'm like looking at that because yeah, there's the skate park and I'm trying to think what they call it, but the pedal bikes and
Yes.
some of that stuff.
And I actually applied for, there was a group, I can't remember who it was, but I applied for a grant for a group that was looking to put in basketball courts. We didn't get it, but they said they'd come back to us in a year with their next request. So there, I applied for some funding to fund basketball courts at that location, right?
And then my last park question that I have is back at Farmers Field. Is there something we can do or should do? And I'm asking the question because I don't know. But that's like, you know, I did see it get used a bit this past winter. But like currently trying to mow the one side and then the other side is so steep, you can't mow it, you can't maintain it. Should that be at least terraced off differently or something that people can, maybe they can sit up there, and watch some soccer games.
Scott has brought this up to me, and I wonder if we don't go out to the public and just see what the interest level is from the public to keep it. is it highly and better used for sports fields or something else there? The other thing I'm worried about, frankly, is it's gonna be a visibility issue with building a new park shelter behind it. So driving down Manitowoc Road, you're not gonna see what's going on back there because of that big mound of dirt. So I know the village has moved this thing multiple times years ago, but it's only as good as we get snow, and if we get years where we don't have snow, it's just sitting there and not being used for anything, and is that the highest and best use of that land? So maybe it's a discussion we should have with the public, like, do they see value in keeping it, or do they see value in bringing additional sports fields or flag football areas, or the requests that we're gonna talk about tonight? Yeah.
And I'll agree with that assessment. I just feel as though from a historical standpoint, we've seen individuals get back there with their vehicles in the springtime and tear up the place. And I think it would be better just for the safety aspect and for the vandalism aspect that there's a clear line of sight instead of the officers having to
They literally
drive in versus if you can at least drive by and see something going on, it would make it, I think, more advantageous for the staff and the public to be able to see what's going on there instead of having things somewhat hidden. So trustee Baldwin, wants to speak.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, there you go.
The thing I wanted to say about the sledding hill, I agree, it's very, very, very seasonal. I don't know how often it even gets used, but would it pay to check with the Sherwood people about Wannet? Because they do have a sledding hill.
Yeah,
And I agree, I think there's way better ways to use that space than seasonal once in a while thing, but maybe there's some kind of compromise we don't make where we had something smaller maybe, but.
or maybe there's a partnership, sure.
Yeah,
The new administrator and the parks people have been really good, and I don't know if there's, an annual contribution or something we make under Park and Rec to them to allow the Harrison residents to be able to go there and we can promote it jointly or something. So let me have that discussion.
that's another thing that you just sparked a thought. I don't think we've promoted Farmers Field, and I realize it's, still in its infancy, but I think just making sure people understand what is available there, unless you drive by and drive in. I didn't realize how much parking there was, months ago, so I think if, no matter what we decide to do, I think we need to do a better job of promoting that part, not only the.
Mark, you have something to say?
Yeah, the ski hill, the sliding hill, I think that needs to go. It's a liability over there. It's from the way that we gotta cut it and the way they got to hear it, and I think, Jamie is looking for free fill and sure all the time to fill up that gravel pit right behind there, the sheriff officer does gravel pit right there on that. They were looking to fill that, they're still trying to fill that pit with fill, so if we got places they would take it for free or whatever.
And we have uses for Phil too.
Yeah, but I believe that. This is, we were on the board when the thing was moved once or twice, and, I think it's just, comical actually, but.
It's the most expensive probably Southern Hill in the valley.
Yeah. But if it's just for practical use and, for trying to get the maximum, especially if there's all the developments moving in around there, I think it's gonna be better for future buildings, play sites, or whatever, versus something that you can only use. Okay, if it snows,
Right.
yeah, from the practicality standpoint.
So I know we only got about 10-15 minutes left, so there's a lot of discussion just on Farmers Field. I guess. I like what you guys are proposing for moving to a online based fee. And I know during for discussion about one of those aspects. I would suggest also, and I've been a big proponent about this in years past, is I want us to be the leader as a staff on technology and utilizing technology to make sure that we can streamline things between the services and the communication. I know Chad, there was an individual who used your online form for brush and all that stuff. I think that should be another focus that we should try to make sure that we continue down that path of the constituents being able to go online and feel comfortable that, hey, I'm doing this and it works and we're getting feedback right away. So I think, just something for the staff to think about to make sure that if they do use it online form, let's continue the process, get better at it, and whatever we need as a board to help you guys, if it's money to automate some of the responses so that constituents don't feel like, well, I'm doing this and you know what I'm saying, so.
So I think that's where, before we move off of this and move into the road paving plan real briefly, I think that's where these two positions really are. I just want to kind of review the two positions that we're going to propose. And one is this IT manager position, because I'll be honest with you, when I signed up for the village manager, I didn't sign up for IT. And it's becoming pretty much a full-time job. But I think also as we try to transition into more updated, software programs and stuff, we really need somebody on staff that's got that background. And not that this person is going to be able to do everything, but just to have somebody that can kind of orchestrate this. And the other place that I'm really concerned about is cybersecurity, because that's an ever-changing thing. And the last thing we would want is to have a breach of our server and have people's, credit card information released to the outside. So, I'm doing what I can, the staff is doing what we can, but this IT is a critical position. And I think as we start advancing and putting in a new finance system and all of that, to have somebody that can kind of lead that stuff besides me, who has no background in IT, would make a big difference. The other piece is this mechanic labor. So I see the challenges, and Jared's here now, but I see the challenges of what Jared has and what Public Works has on mechanic issues. And as we keep getting more and more advanced equipment, our guys can do changing the oil, but a lot of stuff is being sent out. Jared and I had the discussion about fire trucks and the number of things that need to be done on them, and how he's banking them together to try to, postpone stuff to get it done, when if we had a mechanic on site, they could take on some of these smaller tasks like transmission line fluids and different things like that, hydraulics or whatever. So the thought is that this would be a shared position, would also be a fleet manager kind of thing, to just making sure we're keeping up on maintenance laws and all of that kind of stuff. And then in the winter time, filled with snow plowing, they probably wouldn't have a dedicated route. They would do parking lots or salting, but they would be available in case a piece of equipment breaks down, or a fire truck needs to go in and get fixed or something of that sort. So I think when we look at where we are staffing wise, it seems like this mechanic position would help on both sides, and it would be multifaceted to still do other things when we don't have mechanic issues. But there's a lot of times where equipment is being trucked all over northeast Wisconsin to find somebody to fix it, and then it sits there and it's out of service, and then it has to come back, and we're at their mercy, where we could do a lot of that in-house. Now, are we going to rebuild engines? Absolutely not. We don't have the facilities to hoist up and fire truck in the air and work underneath it, but that day-to-day kind of maintenance kind of things that Jared and Jeff try to handle, but they only know so much as well. I think it would be a benefit. So that's kind of where we're at with the two full-time positions that we're proposing. IT manager position would also potentially be shared with Sherwood. So they're finishing up a study right now with a grant that Sherwood got to look at sharing the building inspector and the IT, and providing some service to them for Harrison with these positions, so they wouldn't be fully funded. The IT wouldn't be fully funded by the village. We would have some revenue from Sherwood.
Mark, you had some.
Yeah, so Craig is the IT guy, fortunately, we hire 20-25 hours a week. His office is on, South John, right across the south over there, by the parking building right there. He's been doing the Sherwood, he specializes in cybersecurity. And, he does, a lot of, he does that type of work, like 20-25 hours a week. So he's been the Sherwood person out there for the last 4 or 5 years for their online video, their board meetings and stuff like that. He's also done other security. He's done a great job out there. So, I can't remember his last name. Like a couple of years ago, I brought this to Matt Heiser's attention. That's when we had a security possible breach here, and and there's a lot of regions around town, I don't know, Grand Sheet, I think, got nailed. One of the villages out got nailed, and, England, yeah, there's another one on the west side out there too. And I forget his name at that time, we didn't make any moves at that time, but I think it's, timing, I think, as we grow, especially.
Yeah, I think it could be a better thing, I would love to see this position try to be a full-time position.
Yeah.
Just so we have something here when we need it, because when we're doing tax collection and the printer goes down, Chad isn't the one to be there to fix it, so.
Okay, let's get to the 5-year road plan, because we only have a couple new stuff.
Right, so in your packet, I gave you
Let's go through the road plan first.
in your packet, I gave you a draft of the road plan. I also gave you the 2025 Pacer ratings. You can take this home and kind of digest it, but what I would say is you try to, as staff with Lee, we tried to go through and address all of the roads that were 1 through 6s, if you will, 1 through 5s, and try to get them on a plan so that we're planning out actually beyond 5 years. So you'll see there's a new column that says 2030, and then later, the later columns on the far right are really the Manitowoc Road and Woodland roads. So we've decided to break those down into chunks and build them over time. Because we're just not gonna afford a $10 million, $11 million project to do those all at once. And then the larger projects, as we've learned from other projects, we feel that there's a need to do design 1 year, construction the next, especially if we need to purchase right away or do wetland delineations and those kinds of things. So take a look at this plan. The yellow is still numbers that are waiting for McVan. That's why this has not been brought forward at this stage. But it does try to address just about everything that would be in need of repair based on the current Pacer ratings. You can also kind of look at the Pacer ratings. I can send out the current ones from 23 so you can compare. Overall, I think the village has done a good job of trying to get the roads in subdivisions up to date, and you can tell by the blues and the purples, but there is some work still to do, and hopefully this plan addresses it. And once we get to that point, we'll do a little bit more public input with it as well.
Can you also maybe throw a column in here and throw in some, an abstract towards some of the stuff that you feel we may be looking to get grants on, or is that something?
Some of that is in here. The Woodland, the Manitowoc Road is the newest one that I'm working on, and yes, we can get that updated.
Because when I was talking to North Central there, there's a lot of road opportunity. We just gotta get the applications filled in for section of road. So it would be nice for us to look at that and say, oh, hey, we get this, and you say, hey, we got this grant to do this stretch of road. We can look at this as, okay, that means now we can move something up or whatever. I said, I think it would help the group here. So we'll get back to you, Matt, what you were gonna bring up something that I cut you off before you said.
Oh, yeah, there's 2 things. So, as far as for 2 positions, that makes sense. As far as the mechanic piece, if you're looking at capital, I had no idea what they cost, but I've done farm technology days, and they have portable lifts and go around 90 portables, so you have to bolt it down for picking up trucks and things. So
I have to verify that we have the capacity height of the little operator. We can lift it up and hopefully they go slide.
well, I just wonder if there needs to be, since we're doing this expansion, if there's something that needs to be looked at from a change order or something to make sure we could, I guess is what to make sure we're making the best use of that apply right now. And then I did have 2 real quick comments on the road plan. This is really helpful. I would encourage you to just look a little bit at midway between Hope and Noe, seeing that's already a 4. And that takes a lot of traffic that I don't know if that should really wait till 2028, with how much that deteriorated a lot over the last year. And if that continues to deteriorate at that rate, that'd be a concern for me.
I understand that. We talked about that forward. We've already done the borrowing from 26, and we weren't gonna borrow again until 27. So we already have two big projects we're hoping to get done in 26, which is the Clover Ridge first and the Linden Hills subdivision and then Mile Long Road. You'll see Mile Long Road is in two categories in case we don't have enough money to do that. We would end up doing that in 27, but I don't know that we're gonna have enough to do design and construction midway and get it all done in 26.
I think, yeah, I guess my thought would be there, would you slide that to 27 instead of 28? I guess that would be my.
I can talk to Leah and see if he thinks we can get a design and construct in the same year.
And then my other, when we were just looking at this quick concern, I guess.
A minute, because I got another.
Yeah, I know.
Stuff meeting.
Is Eisenhower right here between Manitowoc and Midway. And right now that's penciled for 28, and I really believe we need to be putting that road into 2026. Because we need to start alleviating those traffic concerns off of KK and things, so.
Again, we're gonna have to borrow maybe for some of that money unless it's all TIF borrowing and the board is on board with that. We can talk about that.
There's.
Go ahead, Marty.
So Hamilton, the industrial park on the Coop, those cheap paved roads now, they're off, so everyone's laughing about it, so instead of going all the way to, they're connected with Eisenhower. And that was interesting, they're to their part,
Yeah.
so a lot of people are doing that versus one of the, which you tell them.
You're right. I need Hamilton.
All right, we got, I wanna give these trustees over here, do you have any questions or any comments or anything? I know there's only a minute left. Yeah, I'm gonna need a motion to adjourn before we start the next meeting.
Second.
So I have a motion by trustee Deal and a second by trustee Baldwin. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Paul's meeting adjourned.